Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film Road to Zanzibar from 1941. And this is continuing my series where I review all of the Road to pictures with Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. And this is the second Road to picture, and it comes off of the heels of the great success of the Road to Singapore. Although Road to Singapore feels a lot rougher, it almost feels like a pilot movie in a developing franchise. Road to Zanzibar starts to feel like the road movies that we know and love. It complements more of the energy of Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, although that relationship and their chemistry together was fully formed in Road to Singapore. In Road to Zanzibar, it almost fits them even more perfectly. Victor Schertzinger isn't trying to do the dramatic moments he was trying to do in Road to Singapore. It seems like he left that behind. Got this picture to suit Hope and Crosby a lot better than it did before. And it's even a different send-up of a different kind of a movie. Instead of going to Singapore and Asia, they're going to Zanzibar and Africa. It's kind of parodying a different movie, and it's probably almost their most direct parody, as they took a In the Heart of Africa script that the studio had rejected and actually rewrote it as a comedy. It kind of makes it even funnier. It almost feels like more of a direct parody because of that than I'm used to, at least in the next film, Road to Morocco. There's some debate over whether this is a lesser effort or if it's a better effort, and I don't think it's my favorite, although I've only seen 3 as of yet. I still think Road to Morocco is my favorite, but I think this is such a big improvement. You can see the series really start to take shape. You can see Dorothy Lamour get a lot more comfortable with her co-stars, chemistry-wise at least. You really start to see this series take shape and start becoming what you know and love about it, and understand why the public loved it so much, because this is one hell of a fun picture. 2 con artists, Chuck, played by Bing Crosby, and Herbert Fraser, or Fearless, played by Bob Hope, who start off the movie, they're traveling, I believe, Africa and various places overseas, with a circus act featuring a human cannonball, where they tell everyone that Fearless will be shot out of a cannon, and then they'll go to the river and go and see and find him, when it's all a dummy, an elaborate ruse and their typical con man thing that they're used to. But unfortunately, they shoot the dummy off and it catches on fire, and the dummy burns down the circus and most of the town, and they're in a lot of trouble. So they run away and keep coming up with different cons and different circus acts to make money, all of which fail. But then eventually the cops catch up with them from burning down that town, and then this one rich guy decides to sign Bing Crosby over his diamond mines with the money they were going to use to get home, who he also saved them from not being arrested from burning down the town and stuff. But of course, Bob Hope wants to get home, and Bing Crosby instead bought these diamond mines from this eccentric rich guy. Then Bob Hope tries to sell the diamond mines to some gangsters, and luckily get away, and then end up in Africa to escape them. And then they find Una Merkel, who is asking them to save her friend who has been sold into white slavery, who is of course Dorothy Lamour, and they buy her back and save her and give her freedom, and they convince them to go on a safari to find Dorothy Lamour's, I think they tell him it's her dad or something. This plot's like a little more convoluted than I remember. And then find out it's actually the guy she's supposed to marry, as Dorothy Lamour starts playing Hope and Crosby against each other while they go on safari. Road to Zanzibar, I think, is one of the films that really sets up the rest of the franchise. It sets up the patty cake thing being a returning motif. It shows that they're always going to be con man. It kind of brings up that, yes, those are rules of the series that we're bringing back, and this is how the series is going to go. The audience probably figured that out. They're like, oh, okay, these are the things that are in a road picture. It's what we expect. That's what we love. And it has to be, of course, Bing Crosby, Bob Hope, and Dorothy Lamour, who didn't get top billing, but if you look at the poster, and the poster that's most likely going to be the icon for this video, she pretty much is the entire poster. But Dorothy Lamour looks a lot better, or at least to me, to Hope and Crosby, but I think in general Dorothy Lamour looks better than both of them, regardless of your sexual preference. This film sets up all that, but it also continues the idea that these are spoofs. That's the one thing that's kind of got lost in time with these films, and one of the things I actually thought was kind of interesting to examine about these films is that they're very much referencing things that were popular at the time, and these Going Into the Heart of Africa movies were very popular in 1941 and in the 30s and such, but they haven't really lived on. In fact, the odd thing is that this movie has lived on more than the Darkest Africa thing, so it's almost like the parody's more well known than the thing it's actually parodying, which is a great way to completely take away a genre through the history of time, is to make that genre a joke. And I think Road to Zanzibar does that very well, but they do that because Paramount owned the rights to a story by Cy Bartlett called Find Colonel Fawcett, and as 2 men tracking through the jungles of Madagascar, and Paramount felt that that plot was too close to the hit movie Stanley and Livingston from 1939, starring Spencer Tracy, which is a decent movie, but obviously they didn't want to film those two similar. And they went, well, hey, why don't we just make that the sequel to Road to Singapore? And so Road to Zanzibar was born. Now, it was adapted by Bob Hope and Bing Crosby's writers, Frank Butler and Don Hartman. And Frank Butler actually gets a story credit with Cy Bartlett. So I'm wondering how much of it was changed. The beginning feels very Hope and Crosby to me. So I think it's just the safari bits, and I'm not even sure how much is in there, but it does feel like the structure of one of those and almost a direct parody more than I remember Morocco being. And I think that's kind of interesting. But what was interesting is I talked to so many people who didn't really realize that these were parody films. They just look at them as just the road pictures. So that also brings up the idea that these are older films and their idea of race is kind of completely outdated, and that this film has a large group of black actors. I don't think what they're doing are necessarily racist in the terms of that they're making them look stupid or something. All the subtitles are actually very funny, and I think it plays into the fact that they know they're not gods. It's almost similar to what they do in Road to Singapore, where they're basically like put on a bunch of makeup to act like the villagers, and the villagers are like, I know these guys are just two dumbasses, but like, we'll just let them eat anyway. And I think with Road to Zanzibar, it doesn't do that as well, although this is a much funnier movie and much more fun movie than Road to Singapore. Basically what it's doing does still feel racist, but what it's doing is it's taking the conventions from a genre that now you could never do, and you probably actually have to give it some credit for kind of ruining that genre, because even Bosley Crowther of the New York Times brings up that he thought this would kind of be the end of that genre, and a lot of people actually did at the time, and that genre didn't really live on. Since Road to Zanzibar is more well known, it actually probably did good in the long run in ending those movies, at least from the popular consciousness, and at least making them a joke rather than something people took seriously than before. Now maybe people didn't take them seriously and had their tongue was firmly in their cheek when they were watching them, but at least it made a joke out of things that really were offensive. But I still think those scenes play up the strengths of those actors and give them some nice scenes in them. Hope and Crosby are very funny in this film. I really like, some people don't, but I really like the conductor bit they do on stage where it's two conductors talking to one another. I actually thought that was really inspired, but no one else does. And I've seen this movie twice, and both times I find that scene very funny. They have a lot of good interplay with one another, and it feels like their chemistry almost got better, mostly because this film suits them even more. Now, I think this is an improvement on Victor Schertzinger's last road movie. This would be his last road movie, mostly because he had a heart attack soon after and did not direct Road to Morocco. But he was the only director to direct two consecutive road movies. Hal Walker would actually direct two Road 2 movies later, but they were not consecutive. But no one directed more than two, actually. I kind of like Victor Schertzinger's direction in this. Apparently he was a composer. He was a big component bringing music to film, and he had a pretty illustrious career, but he's probably most famous for these two movies. If you're going to see one of the two movies he's most famous for, I recommend this one. I think it seems like he understood the problems with that movie and made more of a fun sequel. It's probably one of the few sequels that improves upon the concept of the original. And I'm not saying that because I'm used to a certain kind of movie with Hope and Crosby. It's more because I think this movie's a lot better made, a lot more fun, and a lot better of a comedy. And it was a much bigger hit and made the road pictures a big deal for Paramount and led to them having an even bigger hit with Road to Morocco. Dorothy Lamour in this, if you look at the poster, it's her. It looks like she's naked, except she's covered in leaves and stuff. Apparently, Hollywood Cameraman voted her one of the best undressed ladies in Hollywood because of that, and people love that scene. The poster makes it look a lot better than it does in the movie, and maybe it's because I live in 2016 that I don't think it's that arousing. I mean, maybe a little bit. I like the whole idea that her and Una Merkel are conning them, that they are being conned by these women. I like that concept a lot. I think it's a very smart way to do it. It's almost like it's playing into the fact that, okay, they're con men, so how about we have someone con them, and it'd be women. Dorothy Lamour is really good at it. I think she keeps up with them rather well. It's almost like she understood more of what she's getting into. Her performance in this film was so much stronger. She shows much more of her acting chops in this and her comedic acting chops. She feels like part of the group. Bing Crosby, I think his song Road to Zanzibar is very strong. Some of the songs I don't like as much. I like this self-referential thing and how they'd reference certain things. I got most of them. There wasn't any references in this that I went, huh? But maybe I'll feel differently in the rest of them. I watch older movies, so maybe I got the Man Who Came to Dinner joke and the Wizard of Oz joke everyone's gonna get. Come on. Road to Zanzibar, to me, maybe not one of the greatest, but it's still a movie that I had a lot of fun with, and I was laughing and I had a good time. And that's kind of why my grandparents bought the VHS. That's why people loved going to Bob Hope and Bing Crosby movies. That was why they were such hits, is because you and you're going to have a good time. It's the same reason people see Star Wars and the Avengers and everything like that. Road to Zanzibar plays that very well. It plays like a fun Hollywood movie. I think everybody involved kind of got that. That's what the audience was going for. It's almost more sequel-y because sequels are supposed to be more fun and lighter and things, and this film definitely plays into that. Hope and Crosby, I think, and especially Bob Hope, got more into doing these little moments where they think Dorothy Lamour has been eaten by a leopard, and they have this whole sequence. It's very funny. I thought the comedic acting was top-notch, especially by Bob Hope. I don't know if Bing Crosby's as good of a comedian, certainly, but they play off each other so well that it kind of works with like Crosby doing his songs and Bob Hope doing his bits. Apparently it wasn't as improvised as they wanted you to think because they had gag writers who would tell them things and then they go perform it. I think some of it was not exactly on the books, but not exactly improvised, like somewhere in between, clearly. Dorothy Lamour seemed to really keep up with it. I don't know, I liked her energy more, but I think Hope and them kind of understood she knew it a little better as well. Maybe I'm reading too much into this. Road to Zanzibar, I understand if people think it's weaker, but I almost look at this as more of this was an improvement in this franchise, in this series. And it was something that after Road to Singapore, I've heard a lot of people get kind of down on it, and people who want to watch them in order get discouraged after Road to Singapore. And maybe Road to Singapore is not the greatest movie to start with because it's still good, it's still a lot of fun, and I think the opening part of Road to Singapore has a lot of energy to it. So I still like Road to Singapore, but Road to Zanzibar is a much better made movie. It's kind of interesting to think if Victor Schertzinger had lived, what would this franchise be like? Road to Morocco would have been directed a lot differently because I don't think that's directed like a Victor Schertzinger movie. And I haven't seen the ones after Road to Morocco, so I'm curious what happened with Hal Walker, what happened with these other directors, and how they had their spin on it. But Victor Schertzinger left the franchise in a good place. I don't think he would have left necessarily. I haven't read any problems they had with him on set or that they didn't like him or anything like that. He sadly had a heart attack. He'd been working on films since silent film, and he's the guy who directed the first two Road movies. Without him, I wouldn't be talking about the other ones. Although, frankly, they're more of Bob Hope and Crosby movies, but I still think the guy deserves a little respect. So, if you're into Hope and Crosby movies, this is not a bad one to watch. This is a good, decent entry. People say it's a lesser effort. I haven't seen them all, so I can't really say for sure right now, but I still think it is a good, fun Hollywood comedy, and that's really what this movie was trying to be. It's not the greatest Road to picture, and I don't think anyone's arguing that one, but it's certainly a fun Hollywood comedy, and that's why people saw it. That's why people continue to talk about it, because they had a good time with it. It wasn't the film that inspired everybody, and that's why most of the time when they talked about the Road pictures, they're singing the Road to Morocco song, not the Road to Zanzibar song. But it's still a fun movie. It's an improvement in the series, and if you're watching these in order as I am, it gives me a little hope to continue watching these movies and to continue laughing along with Bing Crosby, Bob Hope, and Dorothy Lamour, and having fun all throughout. I think that's what these movies were made for, and it really got the spirit of what the audience wanted and the spirit of the great chemistry between these stars. So if you have seen Road to Zanzibar and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to. And check out my Road to movie review playlist. There's not much there as of this video going up, only Road to Singapore and Road to Zanzibar. But if you're watching this much later, there'll be much more of the Road to movies within that playlist. So check that out if you have not seen any of those. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.